When she said it, she didn't even look at me, just stood up there at the podium during announcements, Jason Kerr beside her with his hand resting on her shoulder like he already owned the place. Jason will be managing our farm operations for us, Linda said, voice steady as Sunday morning. He'll be staying in the guest house to oversee the transition. 40 faces turned. I was holding a green bean casserole, still warm through the dish towel. The church basement smelled like tuna and melted cheese, but all I could taste was metal. Shock, I guess, or rage I couldn't let out. The fluorescent lights buzzed. Someone's folding chair scraped linoleum. Jason smiled at the congregation, gave a little wave. His hand was soft when folks shook it after. No calluses, not even a rough spot. The kind of hand that's never worked a day. I drove home with that casserole still on the passenger seat, cooling. His truck was already parked in my spot inside the barn. The next morning I walked to the guest house, my workshop for 30 years, and reached for the doorknob. New lock, deadbolt I'd never seen before. I knocked, waited in the cold. January wind cut through my barn coat, and I could hear the metal roof ticking as ice shifted. Jason opened the door wearing my coat, the brown Carhartt I'd left hanging on the hook inside. He had a coffee mug in his other hand, one of mine, the one that said Local 487, and he looked at me like I was the stranger. "Morning, Walt," he said, smiled. "Something you need?" "That's my workshop." Linda gave me the master key. He sipped the coffee. "Said I could set up my office here. You'll need to knock from now on." Behind him, I could see my workbench shoved into the corner. His laptop sat where my vise used to be. Boxes everywhere. The smell of his cologne, something sharp and expensive, had already replaced the old scent of motor oil and sawdust. "Linda's bringing me breakfast," he added, glancing past me toward the house. "You should probably head back inside. She's worried about you being out in the cold too long." I turned. Linda was crossing the yard with a tray. Eggs, toast, juice, the kind of breakfast she used to bring me when I worked late on a project. She wouldn't meet my eyes when she handed it to him. I went back to the barn. The space where his truck sat, my space, had oil stains from my old Ford, 30 years of parking in the exact same spot. Now his chrome bumper gleamed under the shop light. I stood there breathing diesel fumes and cold air until my fingers went numb. That afternoon, the mail came. I sorted through it at the kitchen table while Linda washed dishes. The water ran loud. She didn't turn around. Electric bill, seed catalog, then a bank statement for our joint account. I opened it, $12,000 gone, transferred to something called KFA Holdings LLC. 3 transactions, $4,000, $5,000, $3,000, all within the last 2 weeks. Linda, she turned off the water, dried her hands slow on a towel, back still to me. "What's KFA Holdings?" "An investment opportunity." Her voice was quiet, rehearsed. "Jason found it. It's for agricultural modernization. We don't need to modernize. Farm's paid off. That's the problem, Walt." Now she turned. Her face looked tired, older than I remembered. "We're sitting on equity we could be using. Jason says we're losing money every year we don't leverage our assets." "Leverage our—" I stopped, took a breath. "I want to talk to the bank. You don't trust me to handle our finances?" "I didn't say that." "You're saying it now?" She pulled a glossy brochure from the drawer, set it on the table. "Read this. It explains everything. Jason put it together." The brochure had pictures of tractors and grain silos, words like synergy and optimization, the kind of language that sounds smart but means nothing. I flipped through it. My hands were shaking. From cold or anger, I couldn't tell. An envelope fell out. Pre-approval letter. First Horizon Reverse Mortgage. Dated 3 weeks ago. Linda's signature at the bottom, shaky and unsteady, not like her usual bookkeeper's hand. I looked up. She was already walking away. "This expires March 31st, I said, reading the stamp at the top. She didn't answer, just went upstairs. A door closed soft. I sat there staring at her signature. The loops were wrong. The slant was off, like she'd signed it in a moving car, or with someone standing over her. Outside, Jason's truck started up. I watched through the window as he backed out, drove toward town. The exhaust hung white in the frozen air. I spread the documents on the table. Bank statement, brochure, mortgage letter, March 31st, 62 days. The house was quiet except for the furnace kicking on, blowing warm air that smelled like dust and something I couldn't name. Something that didn't belong. I picked up the phone, put it down, picked it up again. Hank Dolores answered on the 3rd ring. "Walt, that you?" "I need to talk," I said. "Soon as you can." "What's wrong?" I looked at the papers again, at Linda's signature, at the numbers that didn't add up. "Everything," I said. Sunday service felt longer than usual. I sat in the back pew, same spot I'd taken for 22 years. Linda sat up front with Jason. His suit probably cost more than my truck payment. He had his arm across the back of the pew, not quite touching her, but close enough. After the benediction, folks milled around the fellowship hall, coffee percolating, the smell of someone's cinnamon rolls warming in the kitchen. I stood by the coat rack, trying to decide if I should leave. Deacon Sims found me first. "Walt?" He put his hand on my shoulder, heavy. "Can we talk a minute?" We stepped into the hallway. Cold air leaked through the door seals. I could hear snow sliding off the metal roof outside. "Linda's making some smart moves," he said, kept his voice low, friendly. "Jason's got a good head for finance. Maybe it's time to let her handle things. You've worked hard enough." "I'm 68, not dead." "Nobody's saying that." He smiled, pastoral. "But you've earned rest, brother. Linda just wants to secure your future." "By taking out a reverse mortgage I didn't agree to?" His smile tightened. "You two should work that out privately. But between us, sometimes a man needs to recognize when he's—" He paused, choosing his word. When he's losing his grip. The coffee pot hissed in the kitchen. Someone laughed. The sound felt far away. "I haven't lost anything," I said. "Of course not." He patted my shoulder again. "We're praying for you, Walt." He walked back into the fellowship hall. I watched him join Jason and Linda at a table. They looked up when he approached, and all three smiled, like they'd been waiting. Pastor Cole stood by the coffee table, watching. Our eyes met. He frowned but said nothing, just looked down at his cup. Marcy Brennan, no relation but same last name, caught me at the door. She was the manager at First Community Bank, had been for 15 years. "Come see me tomorrow," she whispered. 9 o'clock. Just you, I nodded. Outside, the parking lot gravel crunched under boots. Families loading into cars. Jason stood by his truck talking to two of the younger couples. They were laughing at something he said. He caught me looking, raised his hand in a wave. I drove home. When I passed the church sign on the highway, someone had keyed a word into my truck's paint. Crazy. Morrison County Attorney had an office above the hardware store. I climbed the stairs Monday afternoon with a folder full of bank statements and the reverse mortgage letter. The hallway smelled like radiator heat and old carpet. His secretary showed me in. Morrison was younger than I expected, maybe 50, with reading glasses and a coffee stain on his tie. "What can I do for you, Mr. Brennan?" I laid it all out. The transfers, the LLC I'd never heard of, the reverse mortgage I didn't sign. He listened, making notes on a yellow pad. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. It creaked. "This is a civil matter," he said. "Fraud, maybe, but you'd need to prove intent. That takes time, 6 months minimum, probably 8. "I don't have 8 months. This mortgage finalizes March 31st. "Then you need an injunction, but judges don't grant those without clear evidence of immediate harm." He tapped his pen on the pad. "Has your wife seen a doctor recently?" "What?" "You mentioned her signature looked wrong, shaky, and she's been feeling fuzzy. Your word. Has she been evaluated?" The radiator hissed. Outside, someone honked. "You think someone drugged her," I said. "I think if you're alleging that, you need toxicology. Without it, you have a he-said-she-said civil dispute." He pulled off his glasses. "And Mr. Brennan, if you're wrong about this, you're accusing your wife of fraud. That doesn't end well for anybody." "I'm not wrong." "Then get proof, real proof, because right now, all I see is a couple having a financial disagreement." He stood. "Clock's ticking. You've got 60 days to contest that mortgage, or it's permanent." I took the folder and left. On the drive home, I pulled over at a rest stop, sat there with the engine running, heat blowing, watching semis go past on the highway. The sun was already dropping, 4:30 and nearly dark. Linda wasn't just manipulated. She'd been poisoned. Chemically, slowly. And I had 60 days to prove it, with no evidence, no toxicology, and a legal system that moved like frozen mud. I put the truck in gear and headed home. Jason's lights were on in the guest house. Through the window I could see him at my workbench, laptop open, talking on the phone, smiling. Hank Dolores met me at the Route 40 diner Wednesday morning. He was already in a booth when I arrived, yellow legal pads spread out in front of him, coffee steaming. The place smelled like bacon grease and burnt toast. A radio played farm reports from the kitchen. "Sit down," he said. "I've been digging." I slid into the seat across from him. My back ached from sleeping wrong, or not sleeping at all. He turned the legal pad around. Dates, names, transaction records. "I pulled county records," he said. Jason filed a barn electrical permit renewal in your name, January 15th. He tapped the date with his pen. You were at the VA hospital that day for your back? I checked. I stared at the paper. The permit application had my signature at the bottom, except it wasn't my signature. Close, but the loops were wrong. The pressure was different. That's forgery, Hank said. Criminal fraud. We can bypass civil court entirely if we can prove it. The waitress came by, filled my cup without asking. The coffee was too hot, but I drank it anyway. How do we prove it? Compare signatures. He pulled out another sheet. I copied 10 years of your electrical permits from the county office, everyone signed by you. Look. He lined them up. My signature, consistent across a decade. Same slant, same loop on the capital B. Same way I crossed the double T in Brennan. Then he put Jason's forgery next to them. Different. Anyone could see it. County fraud unit will examine these, Hank said. But we need leverage. One forged permit won't be enough to stop that mortgage. He leaned forward. What else has he signed? I don't know. Then we find out. He closed the legal pad. Signature forgery is criminal fraud, Walt. It's faster than civil court. But we need to build the case before March 31st. That's 58 days. Outside, a snowplow rumbled past. Salt crunched under its blade. Why are you helping me, I asked. Union Brotherhood. Local 487 takes care of its own. He sipped his coffee. Besides, you wired my house for free 20 years ago. I don't forget debts. I nodded. Couldn't speak for a moment. But we need more, he said again. Keep your eyes open. Every document, every signature, anything he touches. 3 days later, County Inspector Delgado showed up for the routine barn safety check. I'd almost forgotten he was coming. He pulled up in a county truck, clipboard in hand, boots crunching through the frozen mud by the barn door. Morning, Walt. Morning. We walked the barn together. He checked the wiring, the breaker box, the emergency shutoffs. Everything passed. It always did. I'd installed it all myself 40 years ago and maintained it every season. At the end, he held up his clipboard. Need you to sign off on the inspection. Hang on, I said. There's something I need to ask you about. I went to the house, came back with the forged permit, handed it to him. That's the permit renewal from January 15th, I said. Does that look like my signature to you? He held it up next to his clipboard. My real signature was right there on the inspection form I'd just signed. He didn't say anything for a long moment, just looked back and forth between the two papers. Then he pulled out his phone, took pictures of both. This isn't your signature, he said finally. No. You're telling me someone forged a county electrical permit in your name? That's what I'm telling you. He folded the permit, tucked it into his jacket. I'm flagging this for the fraud unit. They'll want to talk to you. How long does that take? Couple weeks, maybe. They'll compare it to your licensing records. He looked at me. This is serious, Walt. Permit forgery can carry jail time. I know. Who filed this? I didn't answer. Didn't have to. He'd figure it out soon enough. After he left, I stood in the barn doorway watching his truck disappear down the road. The wind had picked up. Snow devils spun across the empty fields. My breath came out white. For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than helpless. I felt like maybe the system would work after all. Then I looked toward the house. Through the kitchen window, I saw Jason inside. He had a tape measure out, measuring the living room wall like he was planning renovations, like he already owned the place. I came back from the inspector meeting to find Jason waiting in the driveway. He stood by his truck, arms crossed. The afternoon sun caught the chrome bumper, made me squint. Linda told me you've been spreading rumors, he said. No greeting, no pretense. I haven't spread anything. County inspector was here, asking about permits. He took a step closer. That stops now. I could smell his cologne even from 6 feet away, something expensive that didn't belong on a farm. The wind rattled the bare branches of the oak tree by the barn. Those permits have my name on them, see it, I said. I can ask whatever I want. He pulled a folder from his truck, handed it to me. Restraining order petition. My attorney drafted it this morning. Linda's co-signing. I opened it. Legal language, harassment, erratic behavior, creating a hostile environment. You're not filing this, I said. Not yet. He smiled, calm, like we were discussing the weather. But if you keep interfering with Linda's financial decisions, we will, along with dementia paperwork. She's documented everything, Walt. Every accusation, every paranoid episode. The folder felt heavy in my hands. My vision narrowed. There's an easier way, Jason continued. He reached into his truck again, pulled out glossy brochures. Shady Acres Assisted Living. Nice place, 20 minutes from here. They have an opening. He held them out. Tours tomorrow at 10. Linda already scheduled it. Behind him, the house door opened. Linda stood on the porch, coat wrapped tight, watching. She didn't come down the steps. Sign the farm over now, Jason said quietly. Voluntarily. We'll handle everything else. You move to Shady Acres. We make sure you're comfortable. No legal battles. No public mess. And if I don't, then we do this the hard way. He tucked the brochures into my coat pocket. You've got 24 hours to decide. He got in his truck, backed out, drove past Linda without stopping. She went back inside. The door closed soft. I stood there holding the restraining order petition, wind pulling at the pages until my hands went numb from cold. The emergency church council meeting happened Thursday night. I didn't know about it until Pastor Cole called me that afternoon. Walt, you should come, he said. Deacon called it. There are, concerns. What kind of concerns? He hesitated. About your behavior. Jason raised some issues. The meeting room smelled like old hymnals and floor polish. 7 council members sat around the table. Deacon Sims at the head, Pastor Cole to his right. Jason sat next to Linda, his hand resting on the table near hers. I took the only empty chair, metal, cold even through my jeans. Thank you for coming, Walt, Deacon said, opened a folder. We've received some troubling reports. Jason cleared his throat. I hate to do this, but Linda's safety, and frankly, Walt's safety, requires intervention. He slid papers across the table. These are voicemails Walt left Linda last week, transcripts included. I looked at them, my own words, asking where the money went, demanding answers. My voice, recorded, documented, sounded angry, unhinged. He's been following Linda, Jason continued, showing up at the bank, interrogating the staff, making accusations about me to county officials. He looked at me, almost sad. Walt, we know you're struggling. It's not your fault, but this behavior, that's a lie, I said. Which part? Deacon leaned forward. The voicemails are real. The bank manager confirmed you've been making inquiries. The county inspector confirmed you filed a complaint about permits. Because someone forged my signature. Or because you don't remember signing them, Jason said gently. Linda, tell them. She spoke for the first time, voice barely above a whisper. He's confused. He forgets things. Last week he accused me of stealing from our account, money I moved for investments we discussed. Her eyes were red. She'd been crying. I'm scared. He's not himself. Pastor Cole shifted in his seat. Walt, have you considered talking to someone? A doctor, maybe? I don't need a doctor. This is exactly what we're talking about, Deacon said. Denial, aggression when questioned. Walt, we're not your enemies. We're trying to help. He pulled out another document. I'm proposing the council strongly recommend, that Walt seek evaluation, and that in the meantime, church elders assist Linda in ensuring his safety and dignity during this transition. Transition to what? I stood. The chair scraped loud on linoleum. To appropriate care, Deacon said. Walt, please sit down. You're trying to put me away. We're trying to protect you. He looked around the table. All in favor of the recommendation? 4 hands went up immediately. A 5th, reluctantly, joined them. Pastor Cole's hand stayed down. So did one other elder's. Motion carries, Deacon said. Walt, we'll be praying for you, but you need to accept reality. I looked at Linda. She was sobbing now, face in her hands, Jason's arm around her shoulders, pulling her close, comforting her. In front of everyone, I walked out, down the hallway, out into the parking lot where snow had started falling, soft, quiet, the kind that sticks. Behind me through the window, I could see Jason still holding Linda, could see Deacon shaking his hand. My truck was the only one in the corner of the lot. Someone had written in the snow on the windshield, "Give up." I got in, started the engine, waited for the defroster to clear the glass. 62 days until March 31st. The county attorney was right. Without hard proof, this was just a dispute. An old man losing his mind and a concerned family trying to help. I was alone. I drove home through the snow, windshield wipers beating time, and for the first time since Linda made that announcement, I wondered if I'd already lost. The morning after the council meeting, I found Linda alone at the kitchen table, 6:15. Sun not up yet. She sat in the dark with a cup of tea, staring at nothing. I turned on the small light over the sink. She flinched. Didn't mean to startle you. I said. She didn't answer, just wrapped both hands around the mug like she was cold. I pulled an envelope from my coat pocket, set it on the table in front of her. She looked at it, but didn't touch it. Medical appointment card, I said. For toxicology screening, and a therapist referral. Dr. Hayes downtown. Walt, I don't think you're evil, Linda. My voice came out steadier than I felt. I think he's poisoning you, literally. Those fuzzy spells, the shaky handwriting, that's not age, that's chemistry. She stared at the envelope. Her hand trembled when she finally picked it up. Please get tested, Joelle, I said. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But if I'm right... I didn't finish. Didn't need to. She opened the envelope, read the card. Her eyes welled up, but no tears fell. He said you'd do this, she whispered. Said you'd try to make me doubt everything. I'm not trying to make you doubt. I'm trying to make you safe. She looked up then, really looked at me. For just a second I saw the woman I married 40 years ago. The bookkeeper with the sharp mind and the quick laugh. The woman who used to bring me coffee in the barn at dawn. Then she blinked, and that woman disappeared. I can't, she said. I nodded, turned to leave. Walt? I stopped. Why are you being kind? Her voice broke. After everything? Because 32 years doesn't disappear just because you made a mistake. I looked back. Even a big one. I left before she could answer. Walked to the barn through morning cold that smelled like diesel and coming snow. Behind me, through the kitchen window, I saw her still sitting there. Envelope open, crying. She didn't call me back. That night, I gathered them in the barn. Hank arrived first, truck headlights cutting through the dark. Then Marcy from the bank, nervous, looking over her shoulder. Pete pulled up last in his equipment dealer truck, engine ticking as it cooled. I had the space heater running. The barn smelled like hay and motor oil and the coffee I'd made in the old percolator. We stood around my workbench, the one Jason had shoved aside, and Marcy spread out papers like she was dealing cards. These are copies, she said. I could lose my job for this. Bank records, 3 months' worth, transfers, withdrawals, patterns. Round numbers, Hank said, pointing. 5,000, 10,000, always round. That's a marker. Professional, Marcy added. He knows how to stay under reporting thresholds. Pete leaned over the papers. He called me last month, asked what the equipment was worth, said you wanted appraisals for estate planning. Pete looked at me. I didn't tell him anything, but he knew the serial numbers. He's been photographing everything. The space heater hummed. Outside, wind rattled the loose barn siding Jason had promised to fix but never touched. What's the play? Pete asked. Hank pulled out his legal pad. File criminal fraud charges via the forged permit, request a court order to freeze joint accounts, ask for expedited hearing because of the March deadline. Will it work? I asked. Maybe. If the fraud unit moves fast, if the judge agrees it's urgent. He looked at Marcy. We need more. She reached into her bag, pulled out one more document, set it down carefully. Life insurance policy, $500,000, policyholder, Walter Brennan, beneficiary, Linda Brennan, secondary beneficiary, Jason Kerr. The paper felt thin under my fingers, recent, dated 2 weeks ago. He opened this account himself, Marcy said quietly. Came in without Linda, said you'd authorized it, had paperwork with your signature. That's not my signature, I said. I know. She met my eyes. That's why I copied it. The barn was silent except for the heater and the wind. Pete paced. Hank made notes. Marcy stood with her arms crossed, looking like she wanted to cry or punch something. He's planning to kill me, I said. The words felt strange, factual, like commenting on weather, or wait for nature to take its course, Hank said. Either way, Linda gets the payout. Jason gets it second if something happens to her. Jesus, Pete whispered. I looked at the life insurance policy, at the forged signature, at the March 31st deadline stamped on the reverse mortgage papers. Everything fit, a timeline, an exit strategy. We have 6 weeks, I said. Then we'd better get to work, Hank replied. Outside, headlights swept across the barn, Jason's truck, coming back from town. We all went still until the engine cut off and his footsteps crunched toward the guest house. The lights came on. Through the window, we saw him sit at the laptop, my laptop space, making plans in my workshop. Marcy gathered her papers. I should go. We all should. But for another minute, we stood there in the barn, breathing cold air and diesel fumes. bound together by something heavier than evidence, by knowing what we had to do. The sheriff's deputy arrived Tuesday afternoon, young guy, maybe 30, with a clipboard and an apologetic expression. I was in the barn, checking the tractor oil, when his cruiser pulled up. "Mr. Brennan, Deputy Chen, I need to talk to you a minute." I wiped my hands on a rag. The oil smelled burnt. I'd need to change it before spring planting. "What about?" "We received a wellness check request. Concerns about firearms access and erratic behavior." He shifted his weight. "It's routine. I just need to ask a few questions." "Who filed it?" "I can't disclose that." But I knew. Through the kitchen window, I could see Jason watching. We went through it. Yes, I owned firearms. 3 hunting rifles locked in the safe. No, I hadn't made threats. No, I wasn't depressed. No, I wasn't confused about day or time or where I was. "You seem fine to me," Deputy Chen said. He made notes. "But I have to file the report. Standard procedure." "I understand." He left. But Mrs. Henderson next door had been watching from her window. And Bill Crawford across the road had been checking his mailbox at just the right time to see the cruiser. By Sunday, everyone knew the sheriff had done a wellness check on Walt Brennan. At church, the whispering started before I even got inside. Families clustered in the parking lot turned when I walked past. Conversation stopped, resumed in lower voices once I'd passed. Inside, the Johnsons, who'd sat 2 pews behind me for 15 years, chose seats on the other side. The Mitchells nodded, but didn't speak. Sarah Porter, who usually brought me pie at Thanksgiving, looked away when I caught her eye. I sat in my usual spot, alone. Linda and Jason arrived late, sliding into a pew near the front. During the peace greeting, Jason worked the room like a politician, shaking hands, that concerned smile. I watched him stop to talk to the Hendersons, lean in close, whisper something. Mrs. Henderson's hand went to her mouth. She glanced back at me. After the service, I got my coat and headed for the door. "Walt, wait." Pastor Cole. He looked tired, older than his 53 years. "Rough morning," he said. "Every morning's rough lately." "I wanted you to know." He stopped. Started again. "The vote didn't sit right with me. What the council did. But you didn't stop it. I'm one voice. Deacon has influence." He touched my arm. "Be careful. Whatever's happening here, it's bigger than it looks." I wanted to ask what he meant, but Jason appeared at his shoulder, hand extended. "Pastor, wonderful sermon today. Really spoke to me." That smile, that easy confidence. Cole shook his hand but stepped back. "Jason, I wanted to thank you for your guidance during this difficult time. Linda and I both appreciate the council's wisdom." He glanced at me. "We all want what's best for Walt." "Of course," Cole said. His jaw was tight. I left them there. Walked out into February cold that smelled like car exhaust and coming snow. The parking lot gravel crunched under my boots. My truck was at the far end. Someone had keyed new words into the paint along the side panel. Dementia, and below it, go away. I stood there looking at it until my breath made clouds in the air. Other families loaded into their vehicles. Engines started. No one looked my way. I drove home listening to the heater rattle and thinking about how a reputation could die faster than a man. That afternoon, Hank called. "Get to my place now. Don't tell anyone." His house was 20 minutes away, a ranch style on 5 acres outside town. I parked behind his garage where my truck wouldn't be visible from the road. Inside, he had papers spread across his dining room table. County records, business filings, his laptop open to a database I didn't recognize. "Look at this." He pointed to an LLC registration. KFA Holdings, filed 18 months ago, 2 principals, Jason Kerr and William Sims. I stared at the name. Deacon Sims? Same social security number, same address. Hank pulled up more documents. They've done this before, 3 times, all through churches, Iowa, Nebraska, Missouri. He showed me the pattern. Deacon would identify a target, elderly, widowed, or vulnerable marriage, property assets. Jason would move in as a financial advisor. 6 months later, the property would be transferred or mortgaged, then sold. The victim would end up in assisted living or dead. 4 victims that I found, Hank said. Could be more. All elderly women except one, a farmer in Missouri whose wife had just passed. My hands felt cold despite the warm house. Iowa widow lost her home, Hank continued. Suicide 6 months later. Nebraska woman, stroke during the legal battle. Missouri farmer, heart attack. Could be natural, could be... He didn't finish. And Deacon gets what? 20%. Plus, Jason uses the church connections for his next target. Hank sat back. It's brilliant, really. Evil, but brilliant. Church community provides trust and access. Deacon provides legitimacy. Jason does the execution. I thought about the council meeting. Deacon's hand raised immediately, his prepared speech, the way he'd guided the vote. We take this to who? I asked. County prosecutor. But it gets better. He turned his laptop toward me. I sent everything to Prosecutor Bennett this morning. She called me an hour ago. She's interested, very interested. What does that mean? It means she's filing criminal fraud charges, today, based on the forged permit and the pattern evidence. He smiled for the first time in weeks. Criminal court moves faster than civil, Walt. We just jumped the line. The relief hit me like warm water. I had to sit down. There's more, Hank said. Bennett's requesting a warrant for Jason's laptop. If he's documented the other victims, communications, plans, financial records, we've got him, and Deacon. How long? Warrant could come through tomorrow. They'll raid Friday morning if the judge approves. He closed the laptop. Don't tell anyone. If Jason or Deacon suspects, they'll run. What do I do? Act normal? Go home? Do your routine? Let him think he's winning. Hank looked at me hard. Can you do that? Can you pretend for 3 more days? I thought about the truck keyed in the church parking lot, about Linda crying in the kitchen, about 40 years of work nearly stolen by a man in a suit who'd never held a shovel. Yeah, I said, I can pretend. That night, I sat in the barn with the space heater running and the radio playing low, gospel music, the kind my father used to listen to. Outside, February wind rattled the metal roof. Ice reformed in the places where the afternoon sun had melted it. Through the window, I could see lights in the guest house, Jason at the laptop, probably planning his next move, probably looking at properties to flip after he stole mine. I tested the barn wiring like I'd done 1,000 times. Multimeter in hand, checking circuits, making sure everything was grounded properly. The tool beeped steady, clean readings, no shorts, everything in its place, everything working like it should, except the man in my workshop who didn't belong there. 3 more days, I told myself. 72 hours, then we'd see whose signature mattered. The radio shifted to a new song. The DJ's voice crackled through static. And remember, folks, we're looking at a warming trend this weekend. Mid-40s by Saturday. That February thaw coming right on schedule. I turned off the multimeter, shut down the heater, locked the barn. When I passed the guest house, Jason was on his phone. I heard fragments through the window. Everything's in place. By the end of March, yeah, she's cooperative now. I kept walking, boots crunching ice, breath white in the air. Inside the farmhouse, Linda was already asleep, or pretending to be. Her door was closed. The hallway was dark. I went to my room, the guest room now, I guess, and lay on top of the covers with my boots still on, counting hours until Friday, praying Hank was right about Bennett, about the warrant, about justice moving faster than Jason's timeline. Outside, an owl called. Then silence, the kind that sits heavy on a winter night when everything's frozen and waiting for the thaw. Thursday night, the night before the raid, I was in the barn, organizing tools I didn't need to organize, anything to keep busy, anything to stop thinking about what tomorrow would bring. I heard footsteps, turned. Linda stood in the doorway. She had an envelope in her hand, white, official looking. Her face was pale, eyes red. I need to show you something, she said. She came in, closed the door behind her. The space heater glowed orange. Outside, rain had started, the first rain instead of snow in 2 months, the February thaw the radio had promised. She handed me the envelope. I opened it. Medical lab results from Dr. Hayes, the toxicology screening I'd given her the card for 2 weeks ago, benzodiazepines detected, levels consistent with regular dosing over extended period. I read it twice, then looked at her. I didn't know, she whispered. I thought I was losing my mind. The fuzzy spells, the confusion. I thought it was age, menopause, something wrong with me. Her voice cracked. He was crushing pills in my coffee. Every morning for 3 months. She sank onto the workbench stool, put her face in her hands. Her shoulders shook. I stood there holding the paper. Part of me wanted to comfort her. Part of me wanted to rage at her for letting it get this far. Part of me just felt tired. When did you get tested? I asked. Last week. I didn't want to tell you. I thought... She looked up. I thought if it came back negative, I could prove you were wrong. Prove I was making my own choices. But then, the rain drummed on the metal roof. Steady. Not freezing. Just rain. He drugged you, I said. That's assault. I know what it is. She wiped her eyes. But Walt, if you destroy him, what happens to me? What do you mean? I signed things, transfers, documents, the reverse mortgage. Her hands twisted together. I didn't know I was being drugged, but I still signed. The law won't care that I was impaired. I'll be... She couldn't finish. I saw what she meant, saw the whole ugly picture. If Jason went down for fraud and elder exploitation, Linda was implicated. She'd signed the papers. Her name was on the accounts. She'd stood beside him in church and told everyone I was confused. Even drugged, she was complicit. Pastor Cole said justice and mercy can coexist, I said quietly. But I don't know if that's true. She stood, came closer. For the first time in months, she looked at me like she used to, like I was someone she knew. I'm so sorry, she said. For all of it. For believing him. For not seeing what he was. Why'd you let him in? The question came out rougher than I meant. Why him? She looked down. Because he made me feel young, important, like I was more than just a farm wife getting old. Her voice dropped. I know how that sounds, but when you're 62 and invisible and scared about money and Medicare and whether the farm will last, and then someone young and confident tells you you're smart and capable and special. She didn't finish. She didn't need to. He played you, I said. I let him. She met my eyes. That's the part I have to live with. I let him in. I chose to believe him over you, and I almost destroyed everything we built. The rain kept falling. The space heater hummed. Outside, through the window, the guest house lights were off. Jason had gone somewhere. Town, maybe, or another church, looking for his next mark. There's something else, Linda said. Something on his laptop you need to know about. What? Videos. He recorded us, arguments, private conversations. He has hours of footage. She pulled out her phone, showed me a photo she'd taken of his screen. He documented everything, other women too, other victims. I looked at the image. Spreadsheets. Financial projections, video file names with dates and initials, evidence, mountains of it. How'd you see this? He gave me his password last week, said we needed to be transparent with each other. She laughed bitterly. I looked through his files last night, after he fell asleep. There are 3 other women, 4 counting me. One of them, the Iowa woman, she killed herself. The paper with the toxicology results felt heavy in my hand. The county's raiding him tomorrow morning, I said. They'll seize the laptop. All of it. Her eyes widened. Tomorrow? Early. Don't tell him. Don't change anything. Just stay out of the way. She nodded. Then, will I go to jail? I don't know. Would you press charges? Against me? I thought about that. About 32 years. About the woman who used to bring me coffee in the barn. About her signature on documents she didn't understand. Drugged by a man who saw her as an asset to liquidate. No, I said. You were a victim too, manipulated, drugged. He used you. I still chose him. Yeah, you did. I folded the toxicology results, handed them back. But people make mistakes when they're scared, or lonely, or poisoned. She took the paper, held it like it might disappear. What happens after tomorrow? She asked. I don't know. Depends what the prosecutor finds. Depends what the judge decides. And us? The question hung there. The rain answered. Steady, cold. The kind that washes things away but doesn't make them clean. I don't know that either, I said. She left. I heard her walk back to the house, heard the door close. I sat on the stool for a long time, listening to the rain and thinking about justice. About whether you could punish the guilty without destroying the innocent caught in the blast radius. My phone buzzed. Text from Hank. Warrant approved. 6 a.m. Bennett says stay home. Let them handle it. I texted back. Understood. Then another text. Hearing scheduled May 3rd. Judge Martinez. Fast-tracked due to deadline. May 3rd. First week of planning season. I'd have to choose court or crops, justice or survival. I put the phone down, looked around the barn, at the tools I'd collected over 40 years, at the workbench where I'd built birdhouses with Pete when he was 6. At the circuit box I'd wired myself in 1985. Everything had its place. Everything connected, one wire to another, building a system that worked. until someone came in and cut the lines. An hour later, Jason's truck pulled in. I heard him go into the guest house, heard the laptop open, the keys clicking. I walked over, knocked. He opened the door, surprised to see me. "Walt, something wrong?" "Just wanted to check the wiring in here," I said. "Inspector's coming back next week. Want to make sure everything's up to code." He hesitated, then stepped aside. "Sure. Quick, though. I've got work." I came in with my multimeter, checked the outlets, the breaker, all of it passing, all of it fine. But I was really looking at his laptop. Open on the desk, files visible, spreadsheets with names and amounts. "Looks good," I said. "You're all set." "Thanks." He was already sitting back down, dismissing me. I walked out, back to the barn, back to the space heater, and the radio playing low. In 18 hours, deputies would knock on that door, would seize that laptop, would find everything. In 18 hours, Jason Kerr's plan would collapse. But Linda was right. If he fell, she'd fall too. Maybe not to prison, but to shame, to community judgment, to the knowledge that she'd been the weapon he'd used against her own husband. I thought about Pastor Cole's words, justice and mercy. I thought about 32 years. I thought about the green shoots that would come up in the North Field in May if I planted them, if I was still here to plant them. The rain kept falling, softer now, the thaw settling in. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tonight, I just listened to the rain and waited for morning. 6 a.m., I heard the vehicles, 3 of them, county sheriff, 2 unmarked cars. I watched from the kitchen window as they pulled into the driveway. Quiet, no sirens. Detective Warren got out first, then Prosecutor Bennett. 2 deputies behind them. They knocked on the guest house door, knocked again. Jason opened it, coffee mug in hand, wearing a bathrobe. His face went from confusion to fear in the space of a heartbeat. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw the warrant, saw Jason step back, saw the deputies go inside. They were in there for 2 hours, came out with boxes, Jason's laptop in an evidence bag, file folders, a hard drive, his phone. Jason stood in the driveway in handcuffs. He looked toward the main house, toward me. Even from 50 feet away, I could see the rage in his eyes. Then they put him in the car and drove away. Linda came downstairs, stood beside me at the window. We didn't speak, just watched the taillights disappear. "It's done," she said finally. "Not yet," I said. "Now comes the hard part." The hearing was scheduled for May 3rd. 8 weeks away, fast for the court system, an eternity when you're waiting. I spent those weeks preparing, met with Prosecutor Bennett twice, gave statements, signed affidavits, handed over every document I had. Bank records, the forged permit, the life insurance policy Marcy had copied. Hank worked the legal angles, froze the joint accounts, got an emergency injunction on the reverse mortgage. The March 31st deadline passed without the loan finalizing. Linda moved to her sister's in Ohio. We talked once a week, brief conversations, weather, her therapy sessions, the guilt she carried like a stone. Deacon Sims disappeared, warrant issued, but he was gone. Someone said Canada, someone else said Mexico. Either way, he'd vanished like smoke. Pete helped me get the fields ready. We worked side by side in the April mud, preparing for planting. He didn't ask about Linda, didn't ask about the hearing, just showed up every morning with his tractor and worked until dark. The warming came gradual. February thaw turned to March mud, then April sun. By the last week of April, the soil was ready, perfect temperature, perfect moisture. The first week of May arrived. Planting week, May 3rd. I woke at 4:30 a.m., made coffee, stood on the porch watching the sun come up over the east field. The soil was perfect, rich, dark, ready. The hearing started at 9. Pete pulled in at 5 a.m. with his truck and equipment trailer. "You sure about this?" he asked. "I'm planting first," I said. "Then I'm going to court." "You'll be late." "I know." We worked fast. The tractor hummed. The planter rolled behind, dropping seeds in perfect rows. The smell of diesel and fresh earth. The sound of equipment doing what it was made to do. By 8:30, we'd finished the north field, 40 acres. "Enough." "Go," Pete said. "I'll clean up." I climbed in my truck, still wearing my work clothes, mud on my boots, dirt on my hands. No time to change. The courthouse was 30 minutes away. I made it in 25. The courtroom was packed, every gallery seat filled. I saw Pastor Cole in the 3rd row, Marcy from the bank, half the church congregation, Mrs. Henderson, the Mitchells, even Deacon's wife sitting alone in the back, face pale. Linda sat in the witness section with her sister. She'd lost weight, looked smaller. She met my eyes when I walked in, then looked away. Judge Martinez sat elevated behind her bench, 50s, silver hair, sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Mr. Brennan," she said, "you're late." "Yes, ma'am, I was planting." A murmur went through the gallery. Jason's defense attorney, expensive suit, slicked hair, stood. Your Honor, the defendant's appearance is disrespectful to this court. He's covered in dirt. I came from my field, I said. It's the first week of planning. If I miss it, I lose the season. Judge Martinez looked at me, then at Jason, sitting at the defense table in a pressed suit and tie. Clean, polished, every hair in place. I'll allow it, she said. Allow it. Proceed, Ms. Bennett. Prosecutor Bennett stood. Your Honor, the people will demonstrate that the defendant, Jason Kerr, engaged in systematic elder exploitation through fraud, identity theft, and drugging. We have documentary evidence, witness testimony, and a pattern showing 3 prior victims. The hearing unfolded in pieces. Bennett walked the court through the forged electrical permit, called the county inspector, who testified about the signature discrepancy. Then she called a handwriting expert, Dr. Phyllis Chen. She put 2 documents on the overhead projector, the forged permit and my real electrical license. The signatures are clearly different, Dr. Chen said. Pressure points, letter formation, slant. This is an amateur forgery. Jason's attorney tried to object. Mr. Brennan could have forgotten signing. He was at the VA hospital that day, Bennett interrupted. Medical records confirm it. The attorney sat down. Bennett called Marcy next. She testified about the bank transfers, the life insurance policy, Jason's solo visit to open an account in my name. Did Mr. Brennan authorize this? Bennett asked. No, Marcy said, and the signature on the application doesn't match his signature card. Then Bennett dropped the bomb. Your Honor, we'd like to enter evidence from the defendant's seized laptop, files documenting 3 prior victims of identical schemes. She put it on the screen. Spreadsheets, names, addresses, amounts stolen. Margaret Holloway, Iowa, widowed, $140,000 transferred from her accounts, died by suicide 6 months later. Patricia Vance, Nebraska, divorced, $180,000, stroke during the legal battle, died in hospital. Robert Chin, Missouri, widower, $95,000, heart attack 3 months after the fraud was discovered. The courtroom went silent. Someone in the gallery gasped. Each victim was approached through a church where William Sims, the co-conspirator, had connections, Bennett continued. Each was drugged with benzodiazepines, each had forged documents, each was isolated from family and friends through a campaign of character assassination. She turned to face Jason. This wasn't one mistake, Your Honor. This was a pattern, a business model. Mr. Kerr is a serial predator targeting the elderly. Jason's attorney stood. Objection. Prejudicial language. Overruled, Judge Martinez said. Her voice was ice. Continue, Ms. Bennett. Bennett called Detective Warren. He walked through the laptop files, video recordings of arguments with victims, financial projections, notes on manipulation tactics. One file, Warren said, is labeled Playbook. It's a step-by-step guide to targeting elderly victims through religious communities. The gallery erupted. Judge Martinez gavelled them quiet. Then Bennett called Linda. She walked to the witness stand like she was walking to an execution, took the oath, sat down. Mrs. Brennan, were you aware Mr. Kerr was drugging you? No. When did you discover it? 3 weeks ago. I got tested. Toxicology showed benzodiazepines. Her voice shook. He was crushing pills in my morning coffee. For how long? 3 months. Maybe longer. Bennett showed the medical report. Your Honor, Mrs. Brennan was chemically impaired when she signed the reverse mortgage documents, the account transfers, and the life insurance policy. She's a victim, not a co-conspirator. Jason's attorney tried to cross-examine, asked about the signatures, about her role. Linda answered every question. I signed them, but I didn't know what I was signing. I was drugged, confused. He told me Walt was paranoid, that I needed to protect our assets. I believed him. Why? She looked at Jason, then at me. Because he made me feel important, and I was stupid enough to fall for it. The attorney had no response to that. Finally, Bennett called me. I walked to the stand. My boots left mud prints on the courtroom floor. I could smell soil and diesel on my clothes. Mr. Brennan, Bennett said, can you tell the court what happened when you discovered the financial irregularities? I told it all. The bank statement, the forged permit, the life insurance policy, Linda's drugging, the church council meeting, the assisted living threats. Then Bennett asked the question that mattered. Mr. Kerr claims he was trying to help you manage your finances. Is that true? No, ma'am. He was trying to steal my farm. How do you know? Because I've worked that land for 40 years. I know every acre, every fence post, every wire in the barn. I looked at Jason. He couldn't start the tractor, couldn't tell you which field drains first after rain, couldn't operate a single piece of equipment on that property. Bennett turned to Jason. Mr. Kerr, can you describe the electrical system in Mr. Brennan's barn? Jason's attorney objected. Irrelevant? It's extremely relevant, Judge Martinez said. If Mr. Kerr signed an electrical permit as Mr. Brennan, he should know the system. Answer the question, Mr. Kerr. Jason stood, opened his mouth. Nothing came out. The basics are standard residential, but it's commercial agricultural, I said. 3-phase power, 220 and 440 circuits. I installed it in 1985. Every permit has my signature, except the one you forged. Judge Martinez leaned forward. Mr. Kerr, I have one simple question. When was the last time you operated farm equipment on Mr. Brennan's property? Silence. Mr. Kerr, I oversaw operations. I didn't personally. Show the court your hands. He hesitated, then held them up. Clean, smooth, manicured nails. Mr. Brennan, show yours. I held up my hands. Dirt under the nails, calluses, scars from 40 years of work, mud still wet from this morning's planting. The courtroom was dead silent. Judge Martinez sat back. I've seen enough, but there's one more matter. Ms. Bennett. Yes, Your Honor. The laptop contained communication with William Sims regarding future targets. Mr. Kerr and Mr. Sims were planning to expand operations to 3 additional states. We have emails discussing pipeline development and target acquisition. She put the emails on screen. Jason and Deacon discussing churches, elderly congregants, property values. Pastor Cole stood up in the gallery. Your Honor, may I speak? This is irregular. Please, I need to say this. His voice cracked. William Sims was my deacon. I trusted him. He used my church, used my congregation to hunt victims. I didn't see it. I should have protected my flock, and I failed. Judge Martinez nodded. Noted, Pastor. Sit down. She looked at Jason. Mr. Kerr, you are remanded into custody pending sentencing. Bail is revoked. You are a demonstrated flight risk and a danger to elderly persons. The bailiff moved forward. Jason stood, face white. You can't, he started. I can, and I have, Martinez said. Sentencing in 2 weeks, Ms. Bennett. Compile impact statements from all victims and their families. Jason looked at me as they cuffed him. Pure hatred. You destroyed me, he said. No, I replied. You destroyed yourself. I just made sure everyone saw it. They let him out. The courtroom erupted. People standing, talking. Pastor Cole was crying. Marcy hugged someone I didn't know. Linda sat still, face in her hands. Judge Martinez gavelled for order. Property transfer is voided. Reverse mortgage is canceled. Restraining order against Mr. Kerr is permanent. Mrs. Brennan, you'll remain under probation and mandatory counseling, but I'm not filing criminal charges. You were a victim here too? Linda looked up, nodded, couldn't speak. This court is adjourned. 2 weeks later, the sentencing hearing was shorter. Judge Martinez didn't waste words. Mr. Kerr, you exploited the trust of elderly and vulnerable people through religious communities. You drugged them, you forged documents, you stole their assets and their dignity. She looked at him over her reading glasses. You are sentenced to 8 years in federal prison for elder exploitation, fraud, conspiracy, and identity theft. You will pay full restitution to all victims or their estates. A permanent restraining order prohibits contact with any victim or their families. Jason stood there in his orange jumpsuit. No suit now, no smile, just a man who'd run out of moves. Additionally, Martinez continued, I'm recommending your case be forwarded to the FBI for investigation into interstate elder fraud. Mr. Sims remains at large, but a federal warrant has been issued. The gavel came down. Jason was let out. He didn't look back. Outside the courthouse, Pete was waiting by his truck. How'd it go? 8 years. Good. He opened the door. Farm's waiting. We've got the south field to finish. Linda came back one more time. Late May, after the planning was done, she pulled up in her sister's car, hesitant, like she wasn't sure she was allowed. We sat on the porch. The evening was warm, the first real warmth of spring, the smell of growing things, corn pushing up through soil, grass greening, the earth alive again. I signed the divorce papers, she said. My lawyer has them. I got them. I'm not asking for anything. The farm's yours. Everything's yours. I know. She looked out at the fields, the rows of green just visible against dark soil. You planted without me. Pete helped. It looks good. We sat quiet. A robin sang from the oak tree, the same tree where we'd hung a swing for Pete when he was little. The swing was gone now, but the branch was still there. I'm staying in Ohio, Linda said. Got a job doing bookkeeping for a small nonprofit. Therapy 3 times a week. Her voice caught. I'm trying to be better. That's good. I don't expect forgiveness. I know. But I need you to know I'm sorry. For all of it. For not seeing. For choosing him. For almost destroying everything you built. She wiped her eyes. You deserved better than what I gave you. I thought about that. About 32 years. About the woman who used to bring me coffee in the barn. About how people can be good and make terrible choices. About how love doesn't always survive being right. You were drugged, I said. Manipulated. He was good at it. Professional. I still let him in. Yeah, you did. She stood. I should go. I walked her to the car. She paused before getting in. Will you be okay? Alone out here? I've been alone before. She nodded, got in, started the engine. I watched her drive away, watched the taillights disappear at the end of the long driveway. Then I went back to the porch. 3 weeks later, I changed the lock on the guest house. Took down Jason's setup, the desk, the filing cabinets, the expensive chair, hauled it all to the dump, put my workbench back where it belonged, hung my tool belt on the familiar hook. The leather was cracked but still good, still fit my waist. Pete came by that afternoon, converting it back. Yeah, workshop again, the way it should be. We worked together, cleaned out the last of Jason's presents, found a box of papers he'd hidden behind the insulation, more victim files, more plans. I gave them to Detective Warren. By evening, the guest house was mine again. I stood in the doorway, breathing sawdust and motor oil, the smell that belonged there. Pete was at the barn, checking the tractor. Engine's got a knock, he called. Want me to look at it? I'll help. We worked until the sun went down, diagnosed the problem, worn bearing, simple fix. Pete had the part on his truck. You're getting good at this, I said. Had a good teacher. He wiped his hands on a rag. This'll be mine someday, right? The farm? That's the plan. Then I better learn it proper. That night, I sat on the porch with coffee. The June evening was soft, warm. The corn was 6 inches high, strong and green. The fields looked like they always looked this time of year, full of promise. I could hear Pete's truck heading down the road, could hear crickets starting up, could hear the electrical hum from the barn, everything grounded, everything running right. I pulled out my multimeter. Habit, mostly. Checked the porch light circuit. The tool beeped steady, clean reading, no shorts, all circuits clear. Inside, the radio played low, gospel station. Hymn I recognized from childhood. Great is thy faithfulness. I sat back in the chair my father had sat in, the one I'd sat in for 40 years, the one Pete would sit in someday. The land doesn't care about betrayal or divorce or men in suits who think they can steal it with paperwork. The land just waits, patient, ready for whoever's willing to work it honest. I was still here. The farm was still here. That was enough. 6 weeks after the sentencing, I worked the evening routine, checking fence lines, testing the irrigation, making sure everything was ready for the long growing season ahead. The sun hung low, turning the sky orange and pink, the kind of sunset my father used to watch from the same porch, the kind that makes you remember why you stay. 40 years I'd spent building this place. Took one man in a suit 4 months to nearly steal it. But nearly isn't the same as done. And paperwork isn't the same as ownership. Ownership is knowing which field floods first after heavy rain. It's the scar on your thumb from fixing fence wire in the dark. It's dirt that never quite washes out from under your nails. Linda's in Ohio now. We talk once a month. She's doing better, she says. I hope that's true. I hope she finds whatever peace looks like for her. Deacon's still out there somewhere. That bothers me some nights. But not as many as it used to. Jason's got 8 years to think about what he did. I've got the rest of my life to do what I always did. Work the land and leave it better than I found it. Pete's learning fast. He'll take over when I can't anymore. That's all any man really wants. To build something that lasts longer than he does. I walked back to the barn one last time before bed. Tested the main circuit with my multimeter. The tool beeped steady in my hand. All circuits clear, properly grounded, everything running the way it should. A robin called from the oak tree. The evening wind carried the smell of growing corn and warm soil and possibility. I closed the barn door, locked it, stood there for a moment, listening to the quiet hum of a farm, at rest. Then I went inside, where the coffee was still warm. and tomorrow's work was already waiting.